Okay, Matthew, we are up on YouTube.
Hello, how's it going?
Well, we're going to say a couple second of silence and then I'll start the show. We're going to actually be airing this on Saturday night late, so Sunday morning.
Okay.
Okay, 2 seconds. Quiet. Matthew Weathers, welcome to Timelines of Success.
Well, thanks. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to give you a number. We're on like 100 something right now, but you're going to go up in a few days on Saturday, and we'll have the number for the show then. But Matthew, I'm starting some new formats now. I usually ask for an elevator speech, but you're a professor. We're also second cousins. We have the same great grandparents, and a very close family at that. We have the family reunions. But you've done some amazing things, not just for what you do as a professor and what you're studying, but what you've done on YouTube this week. So tell us about what you've done on YouTube.
Well, I teach a big class, and there's a projector up front with a screen. And a few years ago, I thought, hey, what would it be like if I walked behind the screen? And so I made a video of me walking behind the screen as I walk into the frame. And then I played around with that and did several different versions of that over the years. But then last week, I did the same thing and used some of my best ideas that I like the best and put it together into a little April Fool's prank. And I posted it on Thursday, and that was 5 days ago, and it already has 20 million views, 10 million on Facebook and 10 million on YouTube. So that was kind of a big surprise that people liked it so much, but I'm flattered.
I can't tell you how many of my friends have posted that on their sites or different places. My alma mater actually has that up on their site for my class.
Wow. So you saw it without even, I mean, even if you didn't know me, you would have seen it then,
Oh
huh?
yeah, yeah, it's all over the place. 10 million, and it's moving fast.
Yeah,
S-
yeah.
So explain to us, why does a video go viral like that?
That's a good question. I think this is the fifth one of mine that I've done like that that's gotten more than a million hits. And I think you have to grab the viewer within the first 10, 15 seconds and so that they can kind of see what's going on. It has to be something somewhat unique and different that they haven't seen before. And I sort of have a platform of being in front of a bunch of students and being a teacher of a large class that not many people have an opportunity to do that. So that makes it unusual. Um,
But not 10 million people. That's a
well,
start.
yeah.
You got a
So
big,
I don't
maybe it's the
know.
Smith family.
I'm sorry?
Maybe it's just the Smith family.
Yeah,
They're
that's right.
huge.
It's just the genes passed down from our great grandfather.
The Smith family. We have a interesting family background.
Yeah,
It's well
yeah.
documented. So driving on, let's talk about you and your background. And you grew up in Southern California.
Yeah, I was born in Southern California. My dad is a linguist, and my parents live in Mexico now. And actually, I spent 8 years living in Mexico. They work with Wycliffe Bible translators, and they still do. But I went to high school in Tucson, Arizona. But I've been in Southern California since high school. So, and then, yeah, I went to Biola University for 4 years, then worked in the defense industry as a computer programmer. Then I've been working at Biola since then while I was going to grad school part time and now full time.
At USC, right?
Yes, I went to grad school at USC. Yeah.
And now you're a professor. And what department you're working at Biola now as a professor?
My main job is working for the digital learning department, and we help teachers put their classes online. We run the learning management system that teachers use to post documents and to host online discussions and that kind of thing. So that's my full-time job, and actually I just teach that math class kind of on the side for fun. So technically I'm an adjunct professor, and I teach that one math. It's called The Nature of Math, and it's basically a math class for non-math people, a lot of the history of philosophy, how it ties in with theology and science and all these other things. So it's
You
a fun class to teach.
you've been at Biola for a long time, haven't you? Teaching? Seems
Yeah,
like it.
since 1998, I started working here part-time and then full-time the past 10 years or so.
A long time. That's very good. And I
Yeah.
know at our family reunions, you're always the one to have all the high speed electronics communication systems. In fact, I remember when you set up a Facebook, either it was a page or a group, which I still post to
Yeah, yeah, I've seen
for the family.
some stuff on there recently. Yeah. There's a few things there.
Yeah, if it's a page or a group. So you were ahead of everybody So I said, wow, I never had seen a page or a group before for a
Well,
family group.
one of my big passions is information usability. I love when information is if you can just present it in the right way, then that it kind of comes alive to people. And so, making a good Facebook page, or making a good web page, or teaching a good lecture in math class. And so, I suppose you could even say the video that I did recently was along that theme of kind of like the interaction between information and real life. Because even that video has the theme of here's a person in the projector, and then here's a person in real life. Um, and I think those themes end up coming out all kinds of interesting ways, even in something as simple as a Facebook page, I guess.
Right, right. You got to capture the person's attention.
Hmm.
New Media Expo is coming up,
Uh-huh.
and I bet there's not many people at New Media Expo who have got 10 million downloads in the last 10 days or 6 days or whatever it is. No, less than that. It was
Yeah.
a second, so it's been like 5 days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you should go to New Media Expo. You should be one of the teachers, instructors,
I would love
lecturers.
to. Unfortunately, I have class on one of those days, so
So you're on a break right now, so
yeah.
Biola won't send you off to an NMX and the National Broadcasters Convention next
There
week.
are some people going from Biola, but unfortunately, I'm not one of them.
Oh, we'll have to say hi. I'll have to figure out who they are.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I actually I'm Blueberry, which is one of the host media server companies, one of the top two. Actually had one VIP ticket, and I put in for it, and they looked at my stuff. I guess somehow I won it. So
Well,
I got upgraded. I
congratulations.
get to go to all the parties and the VIP stuff and the
Yeah. I am
free
going
food.
to VidCon during the summer, which is the kind of like the YouTube creators conference.
Is that in Anaheim or Long
It
Beach?
is, and that's why I'm going. If it were out of state, I probably wouldn't, but it's
VidCon
right
is
right
huge.
here.
So what do you see as the future of the digital media? What direction are we going? What is your school doing?
Well, the interesting thing is that a lot of education is now becoming more self-paced or self-directed. It used to be that people went to high school and then to college to get a certificate. Like, here's a proof that I did a certain list of things. But it could be that in the future, people are more self-certified. That it's not so much where you went or whether a certain specific school puts a stamp of approval on your degree, but whether you can prove through some other means that you're competent in some area. And there's lots of certification type things that do this. So Microsoft
I was just
certifications,
thinking of
or
Microsoft as you're talking. That's one of the
yeah, or I technically you could go, you could learn as much as everything about being a lawyer from an online school and go take the bar exam yourself. That kind of a thing. It doesn't matter where you went to law school as much as whether or not you passed the bar exam. And so we're seeing hints of that coming, and everybody's kind of curious what will happen to higher education in the long run. But still, there is a value to an 18-year-old going off to live in a dorm with a bunch of other people and kind of the residential experience. And so I don't think that that's going away anytime soon.
no. In fact, I think it's really important. I think you need a combination of both.
Hmm.
I think you
That's
need
right.
that experience. I know your family are missionaries. Even
Yes.
the idea of going off to a foreign country or doing some work for good, going
Uh-huh.
off and coming back. We have so much more flexibility now to continue our education, continue our training. It doesn't have to all be on the campus, but maybe part of it should be on the campus.
Yeah, that's right. And some of my cousins in Africa, their kids did a lot of their education, a lot of their high school education online because they're out in the middle of Africa, but they could still do a lot of learning from online high schools that are technically homeschools, I guess, but they get a lot of the content online, so it works well.
I know that your cousins in Africa are.
They are Greg and Mindy.
Oh, Mindy, of course, Mindy. Mindy's
Yeah,
our blood
yeah.
cousin.
Walt and Monica.
Well, okay,
Although they're not
they're
they're not.
back now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, interesting family. I know your family
Yes.
really held up the missionary side of the Smith family. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Very
That's
good.
right. That's right.
Yeah, always family reunions. You're there sometimes. You're there. You're there a lot, but you're
Yeah, we'll be there this summer. So,
yep.
I mean, this February.
February every 2 years now.
Yep, yep,
Used to be every year,
yeah.
but the family is so big and so spread out. So driving on, as we look at the future and we see how things are going, I do have a question for you.
Hmm.
Now, if you look at one of our sites, and I'll mention this, I take a little mixer, I hook up two $60 mics, and I take my MacBook Pro and set it up, and I have an $80 camera, plug it all in, and even with a 3 meg up, 3 meg down, I can do a great Google Plus Hangout, or I can go to YouTube, which is the same connection, and go live feed, records directly to YouTube. Plus, you can see it live. Every teacher right now could have that in their classroom, and it would just record onto YouTube, and that way the students could go back and watch the lectures, and it takes nothing. I just can't understand why that's not happening more right now.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I'm most excited about the internet is just the fact that all of these things are possible now. That it's possible for with less and less money to be a content creator, and so I think that education is traditionally, slow to adopt new technologies. So that is probably, part of the answer to your question about why teachers aren't doing that. Um, but it could be that in the long run, it'll sort of be expected that students who are sick are going to say, "Well, how come I can't watch it online?"
Right.
And but yeah, I just love the fact that anybody can type something on a web page and a billion people have the potential to see it, or anybody can make an audio podcast or post a video for free on YouTube, and people
10
can
million
see.
people watch it.
Yeah, that's right.
You're
Now,
famous.
I remember this may be apocryphal. That who knows if it's true, but Mercedes Benz said, "Well, we'll never make more than 1 million cars because this is in 190 whatever." And their reasoning was because the labor market would never support more than 1 million chauffeurs, and they were right, that you aren't gonna have that many people driving around in cars that are chauffeured by professionals. What they didn't realize is that people were gonna do it themselves. And then fast forward 90 years, and I remember when the internet was brand new, people were saying, "Well, it could be that some news would be on there and some content would be on there, but just the economics don't work out for people, to hire that many journalists to fill up the internet. Who's going to fill up the internet? Yeah, there could be an online encyclopedia, but who's going to pay all the millions of dollars it would take to have somebody write it?" Now, of course, the surprising answer to everybody is no, we're not going to be chauffeurs. Everybody can do it themselves. We have Wikipedia, and we don't pay people, but it gets written. Have you ever heard of Clay Shirky and Cognitive Surplus? Is the name of his book. He writes about this idea.
I've heard of cognitive surplus. Yes.
Yeah, something like the industrialized nations have 1 trillion hours of surplus free time among the
Hmm.
population. Now, we
And
spend most of it watching TV and other mundane things, but even if you could get a little sliver of that to go out there and create interesting, creative things, it's a great thing.
when I came back from overseas, we moved my family to where we are today in Reno. We don't have TV. We have TVs around, but we have streaming video.
Yeah.
Everything's streaming here, Wi-Fi, 100%. But now I found, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, which by the way, we're doing on Skype, and you can watch this on YouTube to see what Matt and I look like by just tapping the artwork on iTunes. If you have an iPhone, you see the lights just went on and off. He's in one of his classrooms right now. So
And motion sensors thinks that nobody's in here. But I'm here. I'm here. Pay attention.
where were we? We lost the focus there when your lights went
Yes.
in the dark. But anyway, it's changing so fast, and this is like the future of where we're at and what's happening. Oh, I know. We went to streaming. We have just streaming in our house. We do have Netflix, and they watch Netflix, and they have the Roku, and we have an Apple TV, which for Apple TV you can buy for about $60 now. It hooks up to
Yeah.
yeah.
It's such an interesting idea that we've gone from broadcast 3 channels to satellite TV or cable TV, and then there's dozens of channels, and satellites there's hundreds of channels, whereas now on YouTube there's millions of channels,
Mhm.
and then these other broadcasters. So people were predicting the death of TV, but then it's just sort of changed to be these other types of networks. And I think we're actually living through the second golden age of television, where the power of story is everybody's recognizing that if you have a TV season where you have 20 hours to develop characters and story and plot, that's even better than a 2-hour movie. So I'm
Right.
excited to see what kinds of things are being made, and just the way that I love stories. I think the human mind is built for story, and so if you can put a story into whatever creative thing you're doing, that's a perfect way of engaging your audience. I mean, I try to tell stories in my class. I try to, even the YouTube videos I make, the 2-minute little things, it's kind of a little bit of a story. So I think you're right that that's going to keep going on.
Well, Matthew, we're going to get you set up on podcasting for next month. It only takes a second.
Sounds
You can
good.
set up pretty fast. And now you've got the
Yeah.
expertise there, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, probably so.
Go to, you better.
I
Hey,
think so,
hey,
yeah.
one thing you mentioned, and I talked to professors at UNR here and other folks, and I've interviewed people from Linda, which
Mhm.
is one of the big schools online.
Yeah.
And what's happening is a lot of the universities are actually using Linda for their classes because they can update, especially if you're teaching WordPress or some technology that's evolving because of the software is evolving, or any of the Adobe suites. They can stop right in the middle as an evolution comes out, change the clips to that training and education the professor could never have the time and research to do because they don't have a
Uh-huh.
research team. And then they update it, feed it into the professor. The professor teaches the class based on their instruction.
Mhm.
That's sort of the way that the interface is going. And then the students can go back and watch that Linda episode as well as what they're being taught in class. And then the other thing too is when you're in a classroom environment with 20, 30, 40 students, however many you have, and you have that interaction going back and forth, you discover new issues that you might not discover the same by just watching a YouTube or a media.
Well, you should use classroom and internet for what they're both the best at. So, the internet and online delivery is great for content delivery. Like, here is some information from the best people in the world. Go watch it and then consume that information. And then in the classroom, the interactive setting is a great place to do interaction and question and back and forth and sort of discussion. And so, ideally, the best classrooms would make best use of both of those, I think.
True. And I think that's where we're going in that direction.
I
And
think so
in
too.
closing in this first part of Timelines of Success, I'm going to invite you on a Google Plus Hangout with some of the top WordPress people in the country. We'll throw you in the mix since you're that digital guy and show you how you can have that discussion with that Google Plus, which you've done Google Plus Hangouts.
Yes, yes.
But I'll show you what it's like to have a bunch of little WordPress gurus on.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be
And,
great.
and so, in driving on, the second part of Timeline Success is the bottom line upfront questions. And I want to know, do you use a Mac or PC, and what type of smartphone do you have?
Well, let's see. I have about a 3-year-old laptop that's actually issued by my employer, a Dell Latitude 6430U. And then my phone, because we use everything Google at work, I decided to go for the Google Nexus 5, and it's been a great little phone. It's my first smartphone, and so I love it just because I can check email when I couldn't a year and a half ago. And so, yeah, I love both of them. They work well for what I need. And the thing is, hardware is so fast these days compared to, well, you and I remember 10, 15, 20 years ago,
Right.
that my little laptop can edit videos on Adobe Premiere, and I can use After Effects. Now, it's not super fast, but it's good enough for the hobbyist anyway.
And by the way, you pay for your own Adobe Cloud. I'm impressed.
I do. I love Creative Cloud. I use it all the time.
Adobe Creative Cloud, right?
Yep, yep.
You probably know it a lot better than I do. I'm still learning Premiere and others.
Well, I'm still new at it too. I used it. I'm pretty good at Photoshop. I've used that a long time, but editing video is fun, but it can also be a time sink. It takes forever.
So, and one thing I will say too is in a lot of schools, especially high schools, there's sort of a battle between Apple and Google towards
Mhm.
that backside. I noticed that, like when our girls are going to school, we are fortunate when we're in California to be at a really connected school, even in junior high school,
Mhm.
super connected. And they're doing all their homework and back and forth. They're using the Google platform. for all their data.
Yeah, and our school does too. Although I would say the majority of instructors here use Mac, but our email and we use Google Docs and
Google
everything.
Drive, yeah, they're using the Google Docs in mid school
Yeah.
really well,
Yeah, and it works, yeah, it works
really
well,
well.
especially with an Android phone and especially that's why I have the Google phone. It just seems like everything's integrated really well,
And
and I like that.
and I'm all on the Apple platform, but I do use Google. I have the premium Google email, Gmail,
Mhm.
and but we communicated really well today, back and forth. We had to coordinate this the get together, and we were using different platforms, but it was just flawless going back and forth on different systems.
Yeah, and I think that that will only get better and easier as the years go on. So
And on my contact for you, I've got everything, a million different elements, but no phone number.
oh,
I
yeah.
think that's hysterical. We're going back and forth. I just noticed that.
Well, here's the funny thing, Google knows my phone. I mean, all you'd have to type in is Matthew Weather's
Right.
cell phone, and you'd see my cell phone number.
Right. But yeah, yep, of course. So we're getting a little bit behind here. So what are some of your favorite technologies, which we've been talking about this whole time, and what makes you
Yeah.
most productive?
Well, let me just mention too, Evernote. I use Evernote a lot. I love Evernote. I love the whole Google universe of the stuff we were just talking about. And one of my favorite purchases from 5 years ago was a Fujitsu Scan Snap,
Oh, I love them.
which which I don't know why I didn't have the money for it really, but I just went ahead and splurged on it. Was 400 plus or something like that. But ever since I bought it, I've loved it just because you can just set a stack of documents on there, press a button, 12 sheets per minute, it does front and back at the same time, color, high quality, whatever, and then it's digital. So,
I think about the same time we both
yeah.
got the Fujitsu Scan Snap. I've got my mom, my mom, almost
Mhm.
90, my sister, they have one. They bought the $400 one because we use it between the families so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked at them in 5 years, so if somebody wants to buy a brand new one, they should probably do their own research, but having a front and back sheet-fed scanner is a great idea.
They've actually come down in price a little bit. And the only difference I can see, I've got the S1500, which is like the professional high level, and the one they're selling right now, is that they have a Wi-Fi connection.
Well,
So
and
it's
part of the
wireless.
cost is that you're actually buying a Adobe,
It,
the
it
Pro
the
version.
X, it's really not. Yeah, the Pro.
Yeah.
That's worth a couple $100 in itself.
Yeah, yeah, so
It's a great platform.
mhm.
Fujitsu. That's a first. That's a first. That's sort of like older technology though. When we talk
Yeah,
about scanners
yeah.
and driving on for our listeners, um, what is your favorite quote? What motivates you?
Well, that's interesting. Here's a quote that I really love. I'm gonna read it, just because you have to get it right, because it has to do with information usability, and it's funny, and I think that something that's funny and anyway, it's Alan Greenspan. He says this, "I know you think you understand what you thought I said, but I'm not sure you realize what you heard is not what I meant." And it's just, he's talking about how just the difficulty of communication. Now he didn't mean he sort of meant it in a funny way like that, but to me, it emphasizes the fact that you have to be really clear about what you're saying, and communication is a really key part of life. So that motivates me, and I suppose I guess I would say ask, seek, knock. You know that quote that Jesus said is also a motivating thing. Ask and seek and you'll find, and ask and it'll be given to you. Those kinds. So that motivates me too.
Oh, wonderful quotes. Wonderful quotes. Have you ever watched a video or re-listened to a tape and said, "What did that person just say?"
Yeah,
You're trying to figure out what did they just say.
yeah.
Very good. And other than the Bible, being a Biola, it's a Christian school, and the Bible. So we're going to just you already got that one. What is your favorite book and author? Or who is your favorite author?
I would say my favorite author is Eugene Peterson, and I knew you were going to ask this, so I went to the library to go get this. This isn't my copy, but A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And then the subtitle says the Discipleship in an Instant Society. And he wrote it in the 80s, but he was really I don't know, ahead of his time, because he's talking about how he says something like 30-second commercials and Reader's Digest, 40-page abridgments are making our attention span go smaller and smaller. And I read that and say, oh yeah, well, if only I could get my students to sit through 30 seconds of something. Now it's 6 seconds, Vine videos and two little paragraphs on the internet. Um, have you another book that's kind of along those themes? Nicholas Carr and the Shallows. He wrote a cover article for Atlantic Monthly called "Is Google Making Us Stupid?"
I remember
Uh,
that. That's been a while, hasn't it?
yeah. So I like those kinds of books. A lot of the behavioral economists, Dan Ariely, uh, Predictably Irrational, some of those books too. Um, and then I read a book recently called um, the what is it called? The Outer Limits of Reason, which is just really interesting because we think that science knows everything, but there are some things that mathematically, scientifically, quantum mechanics, even mathematical proofs and stuff like that, you can prove that we don't know, chaos theory and stuff like that.
Right,
So,
because theory.
yeah.
It can't.
I'm sorry, I just listed five, and you said what was your favorite book. So if I
That,
had to pick one, here's it. You can ignore the other ones, but I like those too.
very good. No, it gives more spice and variety.
Yeah.
So we finished up the bottom line upfront questions and driving on to tying it all together. What do you enjoy doing on your off time when you're not working in the labs, teaching,
Yeah, I
developing
think
communications?
the main thing I like doing is just hanging out with people. Whether we're just chatting or going and doing stuff, going and exploring interesting. I live in Los Angeles, so I love going downtown LA and seeing things. Um, Another thing I like doing is just creating. I love making new things or writing new things or making new videos or just anything that's sort of creative. I love doing.
I'm always enjoying watching your trips when you go places and
Oh,
getting caught up when they're
thanks.
posted either on Facebook or and then YouTube or wherever they might be.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a secret for taking good pictures on vacation is just to take lots and throw away 90% of them and then keep like 10 or 5% of the pictures. And then people will look through 20 pictures. Just show you don't show them the whole thing on your phone. Pick out 10 or 15 and show them that. That's all they are have patience for anyway. And then they'll say, "Wow, you have such great pictures." And
You
then you
always do.
just don't mention the 90 that you threw away.
Well, that's good. And in closing, for the listener, what do you want them to take away from your interview? What's the most important thing, advice you can give them?
I think the most important advice I could give someone is to be intentional, to plan ahead, and that advice can go for lots of different areas. Be intentional about how you spend your time, about how you spend your life, about how you think about where you're going. Uh, Even be intentional about the way that you consume media and information. Yes, we have lots of things available. There's all these kinds of options out there to read or to watch or to listen or to do. Um, and so being intentional, for example, separate your discovery of information from your consumption of information. You discover lots of things, we'll put them in a list. Then later when you're bored, go look through those things and find the things that you had wanted to look at rather than just sort of wandering, meandering, sort of aimlessly through the internet. So yeah, be intentional.
That used to be called surfing, I think.
Yes, and surfing is fun, and okay to eat, dessert every once in a while, but eat your meats and vegetables and go find long form things to read and be intentional rather than surf sometimes.
So, Matthew, how can the listener get a hold of you?
The easiest way is to Google my name, Matthew Weathers. I'll show up, or you can just go to matthewweathers.com. That's weather like the weather, matthewweathers.com.
And we'll have that on Timelines of Success and New Media Gold, which is really my backbone company. New Media Gold is actually my company now. I've
Oh,
actually
good.
started February. I've been podcasting for a while, and we had the design, build, construction from other businesses, but started the marketing company called New Media Gold. So that's what I'm trying to build up this next year.
Oh,
So you can
good.
give me some advice, like which direction I need to go.
Yeah, put a story into it.
Story.
People love story,
Very good. So in
isn't it?
closing, I got one last question.
Okay.
What is your favorite food?
Oh, I love Indian food and Mexican food. No, in chicken tikka masala or burrito bowls.
Oh, Southern
Ooh, if
California, you
somebody
have to love Mexican.
yes, if somebody could make a burrito bowl with chicken tikka masala, that would be the best. I haven't discovered it yet, but how about that? If I can only pick one, it's sort of fictional one. I'm still looking for my favorite dish. How's that?
Well, you've invented it. You just talked about
Yes.
it. You created a new
Yes.
new dish, a combinations.
That's
multicultural.
right. That's right.
Well, thank you, Matthew. It's been a pleasure. You're back. The light just went off. It's
Yes.
back on. I'll see you
There
at
it
the
is.
family reunion. I'll see you online.
Yeah.
And
Sounds.
congratulations on your 10 million downloads.
Thank you. Thank you.